Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. I got a request to show a particular bass sound and how you can make it. And I kind of want to use that to go over some general tips and tricks how you can yourself in the future, if you have a bass sound you really like, go ahead and get something that is at least decently similar to the sound that you want, maybe from a reference track or somewhere else. So let's just get into it. Here's one of my sound design sessions. I did an earlier test on a stream today, and then I did another one, and this is actually a very close recreation of this bass sound. So the track that was asked for me to make is this Fungus Funk binary sensation track, which is a really cool track. Let's have a quick listen to the full track here. Really nice track here. Now we can have a listen to the isolated bass sound. Sounds like that. You can hear there's a slight bit of extra stuff on the top. And now I'll show you my recreation. It's very similar in the harmonic content, and that's kind of what I wanted. The click itself is not really similar, but if you want the exact same click, what you can do is you can just isolate one of the clicks here, and I have an EQ setup here that will low pass as one, and then you can add the original click back in if you really want to. You have to kind of fade it out a bit and play with it a bit more, maybe even a little bit more like this. And then if you mix that in well, you can get very close to that. But I kind of want to go over, before we go over the actual patch here and all these EQs and what they're doing, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I kind of want to go over how you yourself could kind of extract a bass sound out of a track and then make it for yourself. So what I want you to see is, we have on this track the multi-analyzer. It opens up on the second screen for me, but as you can see we have two of them. I have one on the original track, and I have one at the end of my processing chain here. That also opens up on the second screen. I didn't really name them here. We can listen to it. So this will be the new one, and then this will be the original one. So what you first want to do is you want to kind of scan through the track and see where the bass is most isolated. Some tracks have a really isolated bass sound somewhere. This unfortunately did not have that. You can hear it's full of stuff. But I managed to find this one, which was right here in the track. And what I did is I took this bass note here, the last one, and the first thing I did is I wanted to loop it, and because you cannot loop less than an entire beat in Ableton, I just copied it over 4 times. And then we had that. So what I first do is I always analyze the waveform, what's going on. And as you can see from the get-go, there is not really a saw wave here. It has more... it has all its phase values kind of shifted over, so it's not a perfect saw wave. And what I found was, through a little bit of experimentation on stream, I actually found out that the ICANN has kick waveform is pretty close to what we were looking for. And I did make some edits. I took one of the frames and then I went in here and made some edits to that. And I also decided to add another top click, which I achieved by taking a saw wave and removing all the low harmonics from that. I'm probably gonna go over, and we're probably gonna remake it in a little bit, but I kind of want to show you what that feels like, what that looks like. So I'm gonna turn off all the EQs here, and we're gonna go one by one and kind of show off what is happening here. You get this sound here, you get nice sounding bass patch here. Now if we look at our multi-analyzer, you can see that there is a few problems here. We are on the right track, but we need to kind of tilt this up and this down a bit. I also hear that our high-end click could use a volume envelope. Now that we've installed that and we bring that back a little bit, we have a nice click there, instead of the whole thing ringing through. And if we listen to this, we can see we have our low end which needs to go up, and we have a little bit too much high end. We have some areas here. So that was what this EQing is for. Each of these things kind of adds a little bit more to the overall texture of the sound here, except for that one that was to show the click. And as you can see, it's not perfect. You can definitely tweak it a little bit, but you kind of get the idea. You can really see we could add even one more that boosts that little notch here, but you can hear that we're really close. Right, you can hear the texture is almost the same. So let's dive a little bit deeper and actually make this from scratch, now that you kind of know what I went through. The first thing I want to do is I want to match the waveform as close as possible. We want to get the same kind of wave we have here. And to do that, as I said, I experimented on stream before, and I, by experimentation, know which waveform kind of works for this particular sound. And one thing you can do is copy over an oscilloscope. And now that I know which one it is, I'm just going to select it. But normally you would kind of go through and you would open up your oscilloscope next to it. Hopefully I can put this all in one screen so you guys can see. And let's quickly select this track so you can hear it. And I'm just going to play the note. And first of all, we know that the click starts at the very start, so we want to sync up the phase to be the very start here. Now I know this works, and because I've tested it, and once we add the filter, you can see we kind of get the same result where we have this out ringing kind of waveform, right? Just like we have here. You can see we have this thing that kind of, it's like a big sine wave here with a little one sitting on top right there, as you can see. And we kind of have the same thing. So I'm gonna use this. I think we're gonna turn it down a little bit. And I'm gonna add my envelope. Now the envelope is always very tricky for me, and I think in the last patch we were at around 150, but it's always very tricky, and you should definitely experiment with this and see where you can get it. So now the next step is going to be matching the tone of the bass. So a lot of EQing as we did in the last one. We're going to quickly open it and see where we're at. You can see we're missing a lot of sub, a little bit less on the second octave here. And we can up this a little bit. This is a little bit of comb filtering going on. Maybe we can fix that up and kind of shift that. And maybe we can get a little bit of extra click. So there's a lot of things we can fix in the patch. For example, if we open this up, actually maybe what we will do is see if we can fix that comb filtering here. And I'm quickly just going See if we can get a little bit closer to. This is about as close as we can get. So now I'm gonna press that button here and we're gonna match the lowest note. So I'm gonna drag this up here so you guys can actually see what's going on. Hopefully we can see it, yes. And I'm not really looking at the volume right now, that's something we can do later. I'm kind of looking at the proportions between each harmonic. So this over this, and then comparing that to this over this. So I think we're decent on here, on this whole thing. And if we turn up the, actually we're gonna do that here, we're gonna turn up the volume. And we can turn it up a little bit more here. You can see we have a lot more high-end or mid-range here, and then we're missing a high-end click. So maybe if we just open this up slightly, you can see we're almost there. So now it's EQ time. And again, we're gonna insert an EQ. We're gonna open up our multi-analyzer. And we're gonna start getting into it. So what we can see here is that from the third harmonic here, so that would be this peak on the spectrum down below here, up until almost the highest high end, we kind of need to add a dip. So I'm gonna start here. This is a very slow process, matching all those just right. Just a little bit more up. So this is getting very close to the right sound. As you can see, we're getting there. We just need a little cut here and a little cut there, and then a little boost on the lowest parts. So rather than just messing around with this EQ indefinitely, we're gonna add another one, because it's easier to work with a clean EQ than it is to move all these bands. So we're gonna use the first EQ to get a general tone, and then the second EQ to get a little bit finer into it, and then maybe we'll use a few more EQs to really knock down some exact frequencies we want. For this, I'm gonna start by giving this a little boost. Just a slight bit there. That will set up the first harmonic. Now if we drag it back, we should enter the second. As you can see, we also have the third. And we also want to do a slight dip there. So that would be, let's see where that is. That's around 2K, I would say. Let's set 1950. Should be around the middle. Let's turn it down slightly. I'm gonna bring up the Q so that it matches. Again, as I said, it's a fairly tedious process. And then finally here at around 5K, we also want a little cut. So let's turn the gain down, let's turn our Q up so that it works. So now we have the texture right. Let's listen to our starter bass once again. You can hear that one of the problems is that the plug is actually too long. So if we go back in, we can really zoom into this thing. Maybe another problem would be having this button a little bit too high. So we're gonna carefully craft this. Maybe now it's a bit too low. We're almost getting there. As you can see, now we're a little bit low on the high end, so I'm gonna slightly turn this up. Kind of messing around. What we also can do, just to give it a little bit more of a click, is just to, now that we have our main proportions right, we can just turn it up after, I believe, the third harmonic. Let's quickly check that. Yeah, around 150. Also, you always want to turn off your low pass filter. I have a standard low pass filter there. You kind of always want to turn that off. Let's finally do another shelf boost when the next one comes in. So right about here, I would say about 700 hertz. And now that the click is the same as the one we have a pretty matching bass line. Of course, you can go in and add all your effects you would normally add, like compression and maybe an expander or whatever. But the main gist of it is that you use this multi-analyzer here to kind of match the two spectrums, and that you can use an oscilloscope like this one to match the waveform used by the bass. And just experimenting with that can really give some cool results. Even if you don't quite make the same bass, this is not really the exact same bass as in the original track. We still have a really cool usable bass sound, and it's a really cool way to make your own bass lines and get a little bit complex with it, and hopefully create some cool sounds along the way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If this was helpful, feel free to leave a like, and if you have any ideas for future tutorials, feel free to comment them down below so I can I can tackle the subject and make a cool video about it. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.